Hey there, Bill Lethman here for Money Evolution. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how Social Security spousal benefits work. Now, Social Security spousal benefits are going to come into play when you have a married couple and one of the two individuals is what we call a primary wage earner, and their Social Security benefit that they're entitled to at their full retirement age, usually age 67 for probably most people watching this video, when that primary insurance amount is more than 2 times the amount that the lower wage earning spouse would be entitled to at their full retirement age. So to illustrate this, we put together a quick example, and this may not correlate exactly to what your Social Security benefits are, but I did this in particular to make the math a little bit easier for us to understand here. So we have Mark and Kathy. Mark is 64 years old and Kathy is 62 years old. Mark's full retirement age Social Security benefit is $3,000 and Kathy's at her full retirement age would be $1,000. So if Mark and Kathy both waited until their full retirement age 67, they would be entitled to Mark's $3,000, and he's going to turn 67 a couple years before Kathy. Kathy, however, would have to wait until she reached the age of 67 to be entitled to that spousal benefit. So how they're going to calculate this is it's going to be the $1,000 for Kathy's benefit, and then if she waits until age 67 for both her own benefit as well as the spousal benefit, she's going to get an extra $500, and that's what we call the spousal benefit. And so Kathy would be entitled to, at that time, obviously $1,500. And that's what most people think about when they've heard people talking about Social Security spousal benefits. But I was at dinner last weekend with some friends, and the subject came up because they're getting close to the age where they're going to be maybe collecting these Social Security benefits and wanted to understand how that works. So if we kind of take a look at this, we know that Social Security, if you take it early, you're going to get a reduction for every year that you collect. And so if you wait until that full retirement age, you are going to get that 100% of whatever that primary insurance amount is. That's the amount you're entitled to at your full retirement age. But for every year you collect early, you're going to get a little bit less. So because Kathy is 62 years old right now, she could take her benefit right now and turn that benefit on, which would mean that she would get a 70% reduction. And that's why I made these numbers the way I did, because $1,000 times 70% would mean that Kathy would get $700 right now. And she would not be entitled to a spousal benefit until Mark turned his benefit on, whenever that happens to be. So if Mark decided to wait till age 70, of course, he's going to get his full unreduced Social Security benefit, which would be $3,000. However, because of a rule that came out maybe about 10 years ago, now if Mark turns on his benefit, Kathy is required to take all eligible benefits that are available to her. So if we do that, because Kathy's 2 years younger than Mark, Kathy will only be 65. So instead of getting the $500 that she would have gotten at her full retirement age, she's going to unfortunately have to take a little bit of a reduction on her spousal benefit. And so we can look from our chart here, that would be 86.67%. So if we multiply that $500 by 86.67%, that works out to be $433. So her spousal benefit was also reduced because of the early collection. But because Mark turned his benefit on, Kathy didn't really have a choice in the matter. So when we add those two together, that's going to work out to be $1,133. That's going to be Kathy's total combined Social Security benefit, which is her own benefit plus that spousal benefit. So I think this is something that can sometimes trip people up a little bit when they're thinking about these Social Security spousal benefits. So let's take a look at a slight variation to this scenario and change a couple of details. What if Kathy was older than Mark? How would this look in that situation? So let's assume here that Kathy is already just hitting her full retirement age at age 67. So of course she could turn on her own benefit, that $1,000 a month, without having any reduction to that benefit. But again, remember that she is not entitled to a spousal benefit until Mark turns his benefit on. But let's just say, for purposes of illustration here, that Mark decides to also turn on his benefit, and let's say that Mark is 64 years old right now. So if we go back up to our chart up here, at 64 years old, Mark is only going to be entitled to 80% of his own benefit. And that means the $3,000 that he would have received is going to be reduced by 80%, or not reduced by 80%, but he's going to get 80% of that $3,000. So he's only going to get $2,400 for his benefit. However, even though Mark is taking his benefit early before his full retirement age, because Kathy is at her full retirement age, it doesn't make any difference to Kathy's spousal benefit that Mark is deciding to collect early. So in this situation, Kathy is going to get the full unreduced spousal benefit, that extra $500, because she's already at that full retirement age. So this is stuff that kind of gets a little bit confusing sometimes, but I hope this makes sense when you're looking at this and looking at how Social Security benefits fit into your long-term retirement and cash flow planning situation. Really, we think the best way to do this and to really run through all of these illustrations and to really see what works best for you and your situation, not just to get the most out of your Social Security benefits, but also to see what's going to have the biggest and greatest impact on your long-term cash flow situation. So if you'd like to learn more about that, we created a video here recently, and it's going to be either up here or up here, I'm not sure, but we'll put a link to that where you can watch that and how to really analyze your Social Security break-even analysis. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do for our comprehensive financial planning, we've got 2 programs for that. You can head over to moneyevolution.com and learn more about both of those, including our Retirement Time Machine program, which is something that walks you through from beginning to end to help you to create a comprehensive, detailed plan for your retirement that's not connected with wherever you choose to invest your money. So I'm Bill Lethman, Money Evolution, and I'll see you back in one of our next videos. Thanks.